Good morning. Welcome to the premium video forecast discussion for Friday, December 15th, 2023. Of course, I'm your meteorologist, Stephen DiMartino. I hope that some of you guys were able to enjoy the live chat last night. We talked about a lot of cool stuff about what is happening with our winter weather pattern and what is taking place and what's to expect. So if you haven't had a chance to check that out, there's also you can rewatch it at the end of this video. A link will come up and you can definitely check that out. Also, if you're interested in getting this type of content every day, definitely check out the premium consulting membership, only $15 a month. Well, we are in an MJO state right now that is neutral. We've been in phase 6, phase 5. And in these phases, usually you end up with a storm track that's to the west of the region. You get a lot of warm, wet rainfall. But the important thing is that the storm track is to the west of you. But not this year. This year, we just went through an MJO phases that are the most hostile you could possibly have in terms of winter weather lovers out there. And this was expected. Again, definitely check out that video at the end. And still, we have a storm track that's focused towards the coastal plain. And that is something that I am taking note of. And that's something very interesting once we move into more favorable MJO phases within El Nino, like phases 8 and 1. And as we move through the rest of this month, again, up through about Christmas, we'll continue to be in this changing weather pattern. We'll start to see a ridge starting to build, not yet really tapping into the Arctic air, but some polar air masses. And we're seeing that both in the European guidance and the GFS guidance. You can check out the other model guidance as well at cpc.nsep.noaa.gov. Free website, as always, government website. With excellent weather data to kind of look at the various models and see how they look at this pattern evolving. And they're all pretty much saying, okay, neutral circle, which means that there isn't much of an MJO influence. So the dominant influence now takes over as El Nino. So El Nino is always in the background, and then you get these MJO influences kind of mixed in. So now the MJO influence is about to go into a neutral state. You're going to lose the support for that Pacific jet that everyone's been talking about, which is already starting to happen. And you start to see this changing weather pattern really start to take shape here. And again, why I'm really interested in this evolution is not, obviously it's going to be a warm storm because all your polar and Arctic air is up here, right? The timing's just wrong in this scenario, which you would expect in this MJO phase influence. But just the fact that we're seeing the subtropical jet stream support more East Coast cyclogenesis than, if you look at the rest of the tropical forcing, you would think that the phase would end up here. And earlier on, the model guidance was doing just that. GFS, European, they were all saying, okay, this is going to be a storm coming up towards the Great Lakes. But since then, as we've gotten better sampling of the short waves that we're dealing with here, that idea has shifted towards the coast. And this is an important lesson for us because as we move through winter and we shift to a colder and colder weather pattern, model guidance is going to have a difficult time handling the storm threats that we will be dealing with going forward. And so do not be surprised if we see this theme where 7 to 10 days out, it looks like a big lake cutter. Then once we get under 5 days, it jumps towards the coast and the forecasts all have to shift. So patience in this weather pattern is key. So in this setup right now, one of the things that led to a further east solution here is that this ridge axis remained over the Rockies, which, is a signal that the Pacific jet that everyone's talking about, that influence really was overblown. Because if the jet stream was just slamming right into the West Coast, this ridge would have been dislodged and this whole setup would have been pushed out into the Atlantic, or the phase would have been earlier and head up towards the Great Lakes, one of the other two. Not what we're seeing here. And this setup is possible because of this ridge axis. So you have to have the right wavelengths, okay, to set this scenario up. So close but no cigar in terms of the potential for the polar air mass here, which is represented with this trough here, to interact with this storm. And no, we're not going to see a shift and change the storm to being much colder. Don't bother waiting model after model run over the next 2 days to see some sort of change. That's not happening. And the reason why that's not happening is that we just don't have the blocking here to really drive this southward. Okay. It's pretty much a positive NAO signal right here. So what you'd want is for this whole ridge to build into Greenland and this feature to drop down this way. In other words, that's not happening. So that's our first storm that swings through, and we'll talk about this next feature that comes in behind it and what that means in terms of more wintry-like precipitation, snow, sleet. And then after that, as we head towards the week of Christmas and head towards Christmas Eve, one very important change. Again, generally a tranquil weather pattern. We have a few short waves moving through, temperatures bouncing from near to slightly above normal. But this feature digging here sets up the final week of December to be a little bit more interesting. It's showing up here on the ensemble guides as well. And now we start to see this. Now, you're going to see a lot of talk about, oh, a big winter storm and so on and so forth. Before you do that, slow your roll a little bit because there's a couple of issues here. Yes, there's definitely potential for a storm here. Okay. And there's no doubt about that. But the way that this pattern is set up, our polar air masses in this are going to be marginal. You know, if we get any type of snowfall out of this, it's going to be a low ratio snowfall with 6-to-1 or 8-to-1 type snowfall. So if you're going to, if we get to the point where we actually have a winter storm, you start pulling out the 10-to-1 snow maps, you're going to be disappointed. So I'd warn against that. Also, the lack of blocking here, this is pretty much the exact opposite of what you want in terms of blocking. So anything that forms is going to be progressive, which means you're dealing with a thread the needle type scenario for the last week of December. So definitely colder, but not cold. Okay, not like Arctic cold or anything like that. Marginal polar air masses in this setup here. Progressive storm track because of a lack of blocking here. But certainly not a blowtorch like some people were saying. That's certainly not in the cards in any way, shape, or form. This ridge axis has to be watched here because if we see this ridge axis kind of shift a little bit further to the west, then this trough is a little bit sharper, and then we'll see what type of dynamic storm. But you can clearly see we go from this to this. Clearly a shift in our pattern as we continue to evolve through winter. Now, in the meantime, we have tranquil weather conditions today. Today's going to be pretty nice. You have temperatures already ranging from the upper 20s to lower 30s over the northern interior, mid 30s in your suburbs, pushing into the mid to upper 30s in your urban areas, and down along the immediate coast, upper 30s to lower 40s. Winds are generally from the west southwest around 5 miles per hour. They will be shifting to the northwest around 5 miles per hour. Nothing really too significant. Pretty quiet day out there, and you could thank high pressure that's sitting right here. But trouble is brewing off to our west. Now, this is the temperatures at 850 millibars. You see the influence of that high pressure system drawing warm air from the Mississippi River Valley into our neck of the woods, supporting a nice gradual warm up as we go on through the day. But it's not going to last very long, at least tranquil weather conditions. This ridge will exit out, and then we're watching this feature down here in the subtropical jet stream interacting with this Pacific shortwave diving in, and then we have the polar shortwave up here and up here. So the polar air mass and troughs and dynamics with that type of air mass is going to remain separate from the storm for most part because the timing between the subtropical and polar jet streams are just not aligned. Okay. But even with that, this is going to be a really dynamic storm with plenty of moisture being drawn in from the Gulf of Mexico, some interaction with the Gulf Stream here, enhancing our thermal gradient along the southeast coast, which is going to allow for this low pressure system to really amp up. And then as it goes into a negative tilt, which it's already starting to do here, it's going to have the potential to further intensify because of strong divergence and diffluence over the northern mid-Atlantic. So you could see all of the details all set up here very nicely here for our storm on the water vapor satellite picture. A moisture-loaded, juiced-up subtropical jet stream. Here's our short wave within that subtropical jet stream regime, getting ready to interact with the Pacific short wave. And our polar short wave is back here waiting in the wings for once the storm pulls up into the Canadian Maritimes. On the infrared satellite picture, you can see the lifting already associated. You can see just how uh, dynamic and how amplified this shortwave already is. And it hasn't even interacted with all of this moisture, just ready to be tapped in and get drawn northward. So when we take a look at the model guidance in this scenario, again, you can see the focus here of the redevelopment of the upper level low along the southeast coast. And very strong lifting, very impressive lifting here. Here's your polar shortwave back here. Here's your Pacific shortwave here. Once we get to Sunday afternoon, you can see the intensification of the storm. And while this is happening on Sunday afternoon, evening, you're getting strong divergence and diffluence right over here, getting very strong lifting taking shape here at every level of the atmosphere. And then you can see at 850 millibars, nice warm seclusion. That's where warm air is kind of wrapping in towards the center of the low pressure system. Not pure warm core. There's a difference in the structure of this system because it's still driven by thermodynamic processes. So you have this cooler, drier air wrapping in towards the center as well. So you get this warm seclusion taking shape, allowing for the low pressure system to really intensify. Here's our polar and Arctic air back here, just waiting to hold in, and it basically will start to drop in once the storm lifts northward. And so you could see why on Monday it's going to be pretty warm in the morning because you have some very warm air pushing in basically from the tropics while our polar and Arctic air waits in the wings until this storm pulls away. And why? Well, when we take a look at the upper levels, the interaction between the short wave that's on the coast and the short wave that has all this polar air is not timed properly. And so while it's diving into the backside of this trough, it's not a phase yet. It's barely interaction. When do we see that? Well, we see that later on in the forecast period. Now, what's interesting is that the shortwave in the polar jet stream tries to cut off into an upper level low. I'm still hesitant in trusting the strength of this trough in this upper level low in the polar jet stream. But I certainly like the idea of instability in the atmosphere and the potential for scattered snow showers around the region. Accumulation of snowfall, your normal dusting, maybe a rogue inch here and there. But you can see the type of cold air that really wraps in on the backside of the storm. And so on Tuesday, you have a lot of instability in the atmosphere and these pesky rain snow showers transitioning over to snow showers. So certainly that environment is in place there. And then that exits out pretty quickly, and then we go back to a tranquil weather pattern thereafter until we get to possibly next weekend with another short wave that dives in on Sunday. We'll have to keep an eye on that clipper and see how it evolves. In terms of the winds with this storm, again, we're going to be watching to see what the mix down will be with this jet stream here at 850 millibars. Certainly supported of very high moisture content. I'm just going to show in a moment the precipitable water value is going through the roof, which is going to support some very heavy rainfall along the northern mid-Atlantic through Sunday afternoon into Monday afternoon, where we're talking easily 1 to 3 inches of rain. A few locations may push higher than that. But as far as the winds mixing down here, I think the best potential is going to be over the coastal waters. But certainly some wind gusts around 30 to 50 miles per hour will be a threat. We'll also have to be aware and prepare for the coastal flooding as well from this system because of the persistent easterly winds starting tomorrow afternoon and continuing all the way on through Monday afternoon until the winds back to the west around 10 to 20 miles per hour. So while all that is happening, again, there is the principal water values. This is probably a little bit overdone, but you get the idea here of pushing up to 2 inches, and this amount of moisture this time of year with the air mass that we have in place is certainly going to support the potential for very heavy rainfall. The good news is that this storm leaves on Monday afternoon and evening. So the Monday evening rush hour should be much improved, but the Monday morning rush hour is going to be a complete and total mess. So now we went over all the details. Let's dive into this forecast. For today, high pressure will be in control with temperatures ranging from the mid to upper 40s over the northern interior, lower 50s along the coast. Overall, not too bad of a day. For tonight into tomorrow, look for clear skies, sky cloud cover, low temperatures in the upper 20s to lower 30s over the northern interior, lower to mid 30s along the coast. Tomorrow afternoon, look for sky cloud cover with temperatures rebounding into the mid to upper 40s over the northern interior, upper 40s to lower 50s along the coast. Now, on Saturday night into Sunday morning, the high pressure system departs. Clouds will start to increase. Look for low temperatures ranging from the upper 30s to lower 40s over the northern interior, lower to mid 40s along the coast. On Sunday afternoon, showers begin to break out, becoming more widespread as you head towards the evening hours. Look for temperatures to rise into the upper 40s to lower 50s over the northern interior, lower to mid 50s along the coast. There is our storm lifting northward on Sunday night into Monday morning, a very vigorous storm at that, with very heavy rainfall. The Monday morning rush hour is going to be a mess with strong winds, heavy rainfall, poor driving conditions, some areas of localized urban flooding, some small stream flooding, coastal flooding, which we already talked about. Also, there will be a threat for some power outages as well with some of these wind gusts. The strongest winds are going to be along the coast, of course, but again, this time of year, you get some dead trees that could fall on some power lines. So there is that threat as well. Temperatures on Monday will range from the lower to mid 40s over the northern interior, upper 40s to lower 50s along the coast. High temperatures won't be moving all that much over the interior, with upper 40s to lower 50s, mid 50s to lower 60s along the coast. Now, there's a little caveat here. These high temperatures are going to be occurring in the morning, because in the afternoon, as the low pressure system departs, cold air starts to build in. So our temperatures will start to fall through the 40s and 30s as the storm pulls away. On Monday evening into Tuesday morning, don't be surprised we get a few flurries rotating around the region, sky cloud cover, just unsettled conditions with temperatures falling off into the mid to upper 20s over the northern interior, lower to mid 30s in your suburbs, mid to upper 30s on the immediate coast. By Tuesday afternoon, the troughs and the low pressure system starts to pull away. Still a threat for some pesky rain and snow showers around the region. High temperatures are going to be pretty chilly, ranging from the upper 20s to mid 30s over the northern interior, upper 30s to lower 40s along the coast. On Wednesday, high pressure is in control with sky cloud cover, with low temperatures in the lower to mid 20s over the northern interior, upper 20s to lower 30s along the coast. High temperatures in the mid to upper 30s over the northern interior, and lower 40s along the coast. On Thursday, high pressure will again be in control, tranquil conditions. Low temperatures in the mid to upper 20s over the interior, upper 20s to lower 30s along the coast. High temperatures in the lower to mid 40s over the interior, mid to upper 40s along the coast. And on Friday, tranquil conditions continue once again, with temperatures ranging from the mid to upper 20s over the northern interior, upper 20s to lower 30s along the coast, and high temperatures in the upper 30s to lower 40s over the interior, and lower to mid 40s along the coast. That is your forecast discussion for today. Have a wonderful day, and as always, stay safe out there.